One. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Jamen here in America, and we've got over in Ireland. Who we got there?
I'm James in Ireland, Cork City, Southern Ireland.
Hi, I'm Eddie, Cork City, south of Ireland.
Beautiful.
Originally from Belfast.
Beautiful, beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us, being here today with me, and hello to everyone who's listening. We are listening to the recording. We're recording this for you. We're going to talk about the People's Press Conference, which we'll also just refer to as the press conference to keep it simple, the press conference. And, you know, what's it all about? What is this People's Press Conference? You know, from a big picture standpoint, up until now, the folks who generally do press conferences are, you know, governments, corporations, nonprofits, even religions. But what about the people coming together to say, hey, there's this whole new emergent network of conversations, right? Of, you know, for lack of a better word, you know, normal people, regular people like us. Of course, nobody's normal these days, number one. And also nobody's average. Everyone's unique. Everyone has their own story and everyone has their own unique contributions to make. So let's acknowledge that. And let's acknowledge the power of all of us. And it's really all of us being able to share our own stories, our own projects, our own conversations, and invite the rest of the world into conversation with us. I mean, it's very, very simple and very, very powerful. And now that we have, you know, basically Zoom with all these full features and breakout rooms and waiting rooms and recording and everything else that we've got, we're now ready to do this in a big way, in a very significant way. Those are my opening thoughts. James, Eddie, any opening thoughts on your end?
Well, my opening thoughts is that I'm in this for the right reasons. It's all about saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth, and I'm in for that. Regardless of the fact that I might be kind of a shy person and don't really like a lot of attention, or I'm willing to step out and get attention for this, like, because it's a just cause. And if we, the people, as we say, don't step up and do something about it now, well, unfortunately, like we're going to be left to the wayside and go down the drain with the rest of the planet. So I'm here for the right reasons, and that's why I'm going to stick with it. And I am normal, but Eddie's Abby normal.
Not Abby normal.
So why are you here, Eddie?
Oh, great. Well, the idea of the news conference is, I think it's an amazing idea because of the coverage that they can get with Zoom nowadays. Do you know what I mean? It's all over the world, and it's free. What's wrong with you?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? All you've got to do is pay your phone bill, and bingo, you're on, and you can talk to anyone around the world. I think it's amazing. I love it.
And make a difference.
Well, you can make a difference if people listen to you, James. Well, a lot of people don't want to listen to anybody.
Exactly, but that's why we're encouraging the conversation.
Okay.
Hence the
well, you know, it's you get that many people in one area, and then start deciding who wants to talk about what and put them in the different rooms.
Yeah.
It's like being invited round to your friends for a party.
Exactly.
Because if I invite you to my party, you know what my party's going to be like. It's going to be tea and smoke. There'll be very little alcohol, if any at all.
But the difference with this party is we hope they solve something.
Oh, but you can solve something at a party. I remember many the time smoking weed and going, I know how to solve the problems of the world. And then wake up the next morning and go, that's not the way to solve the problems of the world. But I mean, you gotta have hope, son. But then again, I don't believe there's much hope for the planet. I'm sorry. I just think it's going to go down. There's too much happening. There's just too much destruction that nobody has any control of.
Nobody wants to take control of because they don't think that there's any solutions. But the fact is there are solutions, and that's why we need to have these conversations and make people around the world, the wider, we the people on the ground, ourselves, we need to get them included in the conversation to let them know that there are solutions. They just don't know about them yet. But we have SRM, and there's enough. There are solutions.
I know there's a lot of things going. I know there's a lot of things in the pipeline, but I mean, as Guy McPherson says, we need to start this now, and he said that 2 years ago. I don't know, son, and everything's
Still saying it.
and he's still saying it, absolutely. But he is working with Tao, is it?
Yeah, Tao.
Yeah, Tao. He's working with him, and who's putting money into that?
No, they're looking for money to do
I
that.
thought you said there was somebody putting money into them.
No, they're looking for someone like Bezos to put out the money.
Oh, I thought I heard you say there was somebody has an interest in putting money into it. Some billionaire of some sort. No?
No.
Misinformation.
Oh my goodness, you just gave me the best idea. Are you guys ready for this?
Go on.
Let's start a weekly conversation, right? And we're going to call it Speech Writing for Bill Gates. That was classic. I don't think there's been a volcanic eruption in Ireland in freaking millions of years or something. And Eddie, you just blew the roof off with that one.
That was priceless.
No, but listen. I mean, you know that I worked for Bill Gates for a time.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
So I was not his speechwriter. Full disclosure, I actually do know one of his speechwriters, but the point is, if we do this as a conversation, a weekly conversation called Speechwriting for Bill Gates, we could write the press conference for him. We could script it for him. That it will make all the sense in the world. And the gist of it, the crows seem to agree with me. So don't laugh. Don't laugh, Eddie. The crows agree.
No, I understand what you're saying. I understand. Sorry, I completely understand what you're saying. You can take information from one conversation, from another conversation, and from 1,000 different conversations and make a speech. A collective speech from a collective voice. That's it.
But it's like, literally, if I could write the speech for Bill Gates, here's what it would be. Let me just take a crack at it since we're on the topic, right? And we're recording. So the speech I would write for Bill Gates to make, for him to give a press conference, right? Number one, I would encourage him to invite all his techie friends, all his billionaire friends, because they all talk to each other, right? And get them all there and say, look, it's time to cool the fucking planet, right? That's what he'd say if he said it in Ireland, right? But now let's imagine he said it in America. He'd say, it's time to cool the planet. It's urgent. The planet is exponentially overheating. Show the exponential, right? Be willing to look at the elephant in the room, in the eyes, right? And give it a little tickle, right? Say, hey, I've got a better place for you to be, and it's in this beautiful nature preserve. So, but I gotta get you moving, buddy. But before we can do that, we have to acknowledge the elephant, and then we have to look it in the eyes and be willing to work with it. The elephant is exponential planetary overheating, and we have a solution. I'm going to refer to the Harvard solution, the Stanford solution, the ping pong ball solution, and the desert solution. The point is, we've got great solutions for reflecting sunlight back into space and cooling the planet that way, which is the only practical means at our disposal right now to cool the planet in time. In time for what? In time for averting full-on exponential growth of the sixth mass extinction, which is the current default path that we're on, right? If we just keep cruising down the highway, don't take this exit, don't take that exit, don't take that other exit, just keep going straight, right? We're headed towards exponentially growing mass extinction, and we're the Humpty Dumpty on top of the wall, right? We are the Humpty Dumpty. So again, back to the press conference, Bill Gates would say, hello world, it's Bill, you've known me to make some comments about climate change and all that, but I've recently had a radical change of heart about all this, which is that there's only one way that we can cool the planet in time to avert exponentially growing catastrophe beyond the imaginations of 99.99999% of us, including beyond my imagination up until I got the latest facts and data and synthesis, because it's really a lot to synthesize. Anyway, the bottom line is this: we need to break out the mirrors and reflect a portion of the sunlight back into space to cool the planet, right? For those of you who are physicists, hearing me, a lot of you are probably standing up and cheering at this point, because if you look at it from a physics standpoint, and heat is within the realm of physics, there is literally no other way to cool the planet. There are two ways to cool the planet. One is to immediately change the constitution of the atmosphere, the composition of the atmosphere. The other is to immediately roll out a bunch of mirrors. We simply do not have a way to immediately change the constitution of the atmosphere.
And even if we
go.
Even if we did, we would have to constantly pump that shit up there all the time, because it will keep falling out of the atmosphere. People will be breathing in,
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. We're actually talking about two different things. What I'm talking about is changing the gaseous composition of the atmosphere, because the other, what you're talking about, is solar radiation management applied to the atmosphere. But here's the critical thing, James. Solar radiation management done in the atmosphere always involves solids, not gases.
Yeah, they'll follow. Yeah.
And,
I get you now.
Yeah. Okay. Even if they're just seed crystals, those seed crystals are solid, right? So there's so to be more precise, because I misspoke at the beginning. It wasn't your bad, James. It was my bad. So now I'm going to say it properly. There's two ways to cool the planet immediately. One is to immediately change the gaseous composition of the atmosphere: how much CO2, how much methane, how much nitrous oxide, etc. The other is to immediately change the reflectivity of the surface of the Earth, or simply the reflectivity of the Earth, period, SRM, including atmospheric-based SRM that you were making reference to, James. And I know you weren't advocating for it. You were actually doing the opposite. You're saying, hey, but so bottom line, there's two ways to immediately cool the planet. One is to immediately change the gaseous composition of the atmosphere. The other is to immediately change the albedo or reflectivity of the entire planet. And that can be done in numerous ways, right? But all that is saying, SRM, solar radiation management, all it's saying is reflect a portion of the incoming sunlight back into space. Anyway, back to the press conference. So having summed that up, and Bill Gates would do it with really nice graphs and slides and everything, because he's got over $100 billion. He can hire some good graphics designers, and so he'll have all the graphics and everything up there, and then have Guy McPherson on the stage and say, look, I've dedicated my life to this, and at last count, there are 67 self-reinforcing feedback loops, all driving exponential planetary overheating. And there's only one feedback loop driving cooling, and that's a very obscure, very tiny fringe effect called black body radiation. Basically, all of us who are warm, who are not 0 degrees Kelvin, absolute zero, anything above 0 degrees Kelvin emits radiation because it's warm, right? If something is white hot, it emits, beyond visible spectrum into ultraviolet and beyond. If something is red hot, it's emitting a lot of infrared, right? So the heat lamps and everything, electric coil lamps, that's all infrared radiation. So the one feedback loop that's actually causing more shedding of heat is, as the planet heats up, it emits more black body radiation. That's like saying, hey, James, you're going 100 miles per hour and the brakes have failed. We're going to crash. And you say, hey, don't worry. The more we accelerate, the more wind resistance builds up. And that'll be a powerful braking force on the car. It's just like, give me a break, right? You know, so but you know, to be complete, you know, there is one feedback loop that is, you know, so it's like a tug of war between, you know, the chipmunk here on one end of the rope and, you know, the 100 strongest people in the world on the other, plus the 100 strongest elephants, and right now all pulling in the same direction. I mean, it's not a fair fight. So we have to tip the scales by bringing mirrors into the equation. It's as simple as that. Solar radiation management. There was a great article in the New York Times about it, but I'm really digressing here, right? The main thing is Bill Gates talking to the world says, hello world, we need to embrace SRM. And I'm going to be doing a press conference a week on this until the world wakes up. Whoa. 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 Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Has he gone crazy? Right? And then the next week, you know, and then, you know, but all these other smart techies are going to join him. Because he'll say, look, it's time that we stared the elephant in the face and said, whoa, it's big, it's here, it's real, and it's growing.
And all Bill needs to know is he doesn't need to have to put in the most. He just has to be the first to put in.
No, he doesn't even have to put in anything. All he has to do is put in his good word. He doesn't have to spend a penny. Right.
Yeah,
you know, and if people ask him, well, are you contributing? Well, he might contribute to it. It'd be nice. Look, Jeff Bezos has set aside $10 billion for climate. That'll get us started. And then the rest can follow. So Bezos has already taken the lead. They just need to get the right speech. They just need to get the right script. So let's call this speech writing for Bill Gates. And, you know, I'll spend 2 minutes of the press conference on the 19th of November talking about this. There'll be a 2-minute segment called speech writing for Bill Gates. How do you like them apples? Right?
That's fantastic.
I'm going to do another one. Listen to this. Here's another one. It's called Elon's Open House. I'm not kidding. And here's how it's going to go. So you know how I'm encouraging everyone, you, James, you know, you, Eddie, myself, you know, everyone to come and talk for 2 minutes at the press conference and say, hey, I'm here, you know, to tell you about what we're working on, my group, my community, whatever, right? However you want to define it. And here's what I want to invite you all to. We're going to have an open house once a week for 2 hours. We throw the doors open, or once a month for once a month for 1 hour, right? And here's what happens. If you're someone, you know, relatively unknown, right, who's never led a Zoom meeting before, never been on social media, like you've never been on the internet, and suddenly you want to have a conversation about whatever, right? You know, hopefully a number of people will show up, but I wouldn't expect thousands. Not yet, not until it, you know, builds into something. On the other extreme, imagine Elon Musk shows up and says, okay, I'm in. I'm going to do a 2-minute presentation on, you know, decarbonizing the economy, right? Because, you know, so many of my work, Tesla, Solar City, you know, so much of what I do is about decarbonizing the economy, right? And even building the escape pods if we're not able to decarbonize fast enough. Now, but here's my fear as Elon Musk. If I say, yeah, I'm gonna hold a 2-hour open house once a month, what's going to happen? 10 million people are going to show up. Hey, Elon, listen up, Elon. Are you listening? Listen. That's a good problem to have. Having 10 million people show up who are basically saying, Elon, we are your 10 million strong volunteer corps, mostly scientists, engineers, nerds, electricians, you know, people who install solar panels, people who are already talking and thinking about this all the time. And we get to work with you. Elon, you've got an army of 10 million saluting, saying, Elon, we're at your service. What do you want us to do? Elon, here's what you do, and I'll help you. I actually met Elon once at at the birthday party of a Republican congressman. I'm not kidding. This is a congressman who, you know, supported legalization, was a major leader behind legalization. You know, I'll say his name, Congressman Dana Rohrabacher. And he was the one who wrote, speaking of speechwriters, he's the one who wrote the speech and convinced Ronald Reagan to speak the speech as follows: Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the guy. Okay. Speaking of speech writing, right? No, he was just a young, unknown speechwriter at the time. He hit that one out of the park, and then went on to have a brilliant career as congressman and the major leader for legalizing cannabis.
Wow.
In the United States, in the Congress, the number one, period. So we became friends and all that. So that's why I would go to his birthday parties and other parties and stuff. And boom, but Elon came to speak at his birthday party one year, and he gave us all a speech, and he talked about climate change. So Elon gets it, right? But it's time for Elon to have an open house. And yes, let 10 million geeks show up, because again, back to what I would suggest, I'd say, look, Elon, build out a taxonomy of topics that all rolls up to a teleological taxonomy that has a central, aim or goal, which is none other than cooling the planet, cooling the planet, right? And then here's what can happen. Like I said, there's two ways to cool the planet: change the composition of the atmosphere, and SRM. Those are the two ways. There is literally no other way to cool the planet. Anything that you can think of that cools the planet falls into one of those two major categories. The book Drawdown by Paul Hawken, that you've all heard of and a lot of us have read, I happen to know Paul as well. It's 100 different ways to change the composition of the atmosphere. The only thing is, whatever we do today, it's going to take freaking centuries to play out. Other than if we came up with some giant carbon and methane sequestration machine, right? But such a machine simply does not yet exist. Yes, machinery exists, but it's at a super tiny scale and very expensive. I mean, even the biggest one I've heard of is in Canada, and it doesn't even make a scratch compared to the volume of emissions, right? I mean, the volume of emissions, it's like 20 guys standing around after a long night of drinking, all peeing into a teacup. It's not going to take it very long for the damn thing to fill, right? I mean, we're just gushing. We're gushing, greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And then with the melting of the Arctic and the Siberia, all the methane, I mean, we are in a death spiral in terms of exponential planetary overheating. And that gets to what you were talking about, Eddie, that, hey, I think we're going down. Well, the default path is we are going down. My question to you, Eddie, is this: are you willing to step in when 3/4 of the game is over and we're losing 6-0 and play your heart out for a losing football team?
Absolutely.
That's all I'm asking. Because
Absolutely.
when we're dead and buried in the ground, or dead and eaten by a fish, or dead and eaten by other human beings, which could happen, one thing is going to matter when we go to the next step in our existence. What did you do to help? Oh, I threw in the I'm not saying you're doing this or anyone. Oh, I threw in the towel and I just said, nah, it's all lost cause. We're going down. So I might as well just drop acid and have fun. Watch Netflix. Acid, Netflix, not a bad combination, right? Okay, great. You know what? Okay, send that guy to hell. Send that guy to hell, right? It's the ones who stood and said, you know what? Yes, I'm going to play for this losing soccer team and football team, and I'm going to turn it into a winner. We're going to turn it into a winner. But we all have to throw in together. Because if only one of us at a time is trying and the rest of us are dropping acid and watching Netflix, we're not going to get very far. We have to all jump in and push. Okay. And if we all jump in and push, we'll do it. Now, a lot of people are cynical that we can't because we haven't for 12,000 years. We haven't all jumped in and pushed for 12,000 years because we've been living for 12,000 years under the black cloud of the agricultural revolution and the age of separation. We used to be all together. We used to be tribal, singing and dancing, bonfires, campfires, gathering berries, but it was all communal. Everything was collective. The individual outside of the collective simply didn't exist, right? Fine, you might go for a long walk one day, but you'll always come back home, right? 12,000 years ago, that all changed. And we entered the age of separation, right? And now we've become so separate from each other, each in our own little house and each in our big house or whatever. Most of us eating, you know, a tenth of us starving to death, and you know, 3/4 of us suffering. All of us are suffering because we're suffering from the effects of separation. So what we're doing with the People's Press Conference is a major step in the direction of togetherness. Notice I didn't say unity. We'll talk about unity versus togetherness later. But the first and most fundamental thing to do is bring people together. Because together, we enter into conversation. We can enter into conversation. So this whole infrastructure that we're rolling out of the weekly press conference, the People's Press Conference. Oh my goodness, Kate's joining. Here, let me bring her in and pause recording for a second. All right, resuming recording here. Welcome back, everyone, and newcomers, welcome, everyone. So, you know, we were talking about Elon's open house and how 10 million people would show up, and what a huge opportunity, because he could say, listen, okay, half of you get to work on, you know, or whoever, no, better than half of you, whoever wants to, please go to work on the question of how do we radically and dramatically and immediately, or essentially immediately change the gaseous composition of the atmosphere in terms of greenhouse gases. And the other is, how do we do SRM? So imagine that 5 million go to, I'll just call it drawdown, and 5 million go to SRM. The 5 million who go to SRM can then divide themselves between, you know, the Harvard project, the Stanford project, the ping pong ball solution, and the desert canopy solution. Just go to whichever one you want to. And then the ones who go to the ping pong ball solution can divvy themselves up into material science, mechanical engineering, ocean and wave engineering, oil boom engineering, and manufacturing, right? The ones who go for the desert canopy project can divide themselves into desert location selection, right? Location selection within the desert, thin film metallic reflective materials, glass reflective materials, pure metallic reflective, and other materials options, right? And again, each of those options then divides themselves into material science, mechanical engineering, in this case, you know, wind and erosion engineering, a very significant factor in the deserts, corrosion, so on, right? And so imagine just like an upside down tree that just branches and branches and branches and branches and nets out with, you know, I don't know, 500,000 conversations or 100,000 conversations, right? I mean, that's what happens when you bring an army of 10 million people together. And listen, if Elon does this once a month, right? Why do it for 2 hours only? Once you got those 10 million people together, let's go somewhere, shall we? Because there's going to be diehards there who are going to want to stay with it. Don't shut them down. Let them stay with it. Let them stay with it. So whether, and then we talked about, I assume that's really noisy. It's a helicopter passing overhead. Anyway, we also talked about another program we'd like to, so far we've talked about speech writing for Bill Gates, Elon's open house, and a third one we just mentioned was the most interesting man in Ireland, sponsored by Mexican ganja, and that's you, because here's the thing: the most interesting man in the world. I'm sorry, Eddie, but that spot got filled by that. You know, by that dude on television. I trust you guys all saw the ads, right? All right. So indeed. Did you know that sales of Dos Equis tripled with that campaign? Right? The most interesting man in the world campaign. Wow. Tripled. So I think with what we're about to do with you, Eddie, the most interesting man in Ireland, is I think sales of Mexican ganja are going to triple thanks to you. It's going to be your fault. In fact, I think you're essentially you're going to become the next El Chapo. Anyway, but,
That's amazing.
but anyway, really, we'll do the show, The Most Interesting Man in Ireland, and you know what? I'm going to kick that show off. Huh?
And that could be a stretch too far, I'm afraid. Maybe.
All right. Anyway, okay. Well, but you get my point. Is that we can do?
I understand what you're saying. Absolutely, it's an intriguing idea. Absolutely.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, I'm a marketer, so I think in terms of what brands are going to stick, that brand would go crazy, right? But the funny thing is, let it be something that we pushed you into, and gently, so to speak, and you just finally caved in and said, all right, I'm not going to resist. I will give the introductory speech for The Most Interesting Man in Ireland. I'm not kidding. I'll give the 2-minute speech, and I'll say you can generally find him, late Friday nights, early Saturday mornings, on the program called Irish Breakfast, which is open to everyone. Right.
Well, it's a fantastic offer, Jamin, but there's a lot more interesting people in Cork than me.
Well,
but I love the idea.
Okay, then you know what? Let's change the name to In Search of The Most Interesting Man in Ireland.
No, still see the only part I don't like about it is it's interesting. Because like I say, there's a lot more interesting people than me. James is one of them, for example.
I'm just saying the name of the program will be The Most Interesting Man in Ireland. We're not. Forget about you, Eddie. Okay, you're not the most interesting man. I hate to break it to you, Eddie, but you're not the most interesting man in Ireland. Okay, so let's say so you're liberated. You're liberated from that. You do not have to be the guy to go fight Rocky Balboa and get your nose broken. You're now free. You're out of the ring and you're just living life. Okay, but let's nonetheless do a program called The Most Interesting Man in Ireland.
Okay, I get you now.
And then we'll say, and listen, because the complete name, just like the complete name of that Mexican actor was Tuco Benedicto Pacifico Juan Maria Ramirez, the full name of the show is the full name of the show is In Search of The Most Interesting Man in Ireland. Right. And the reason we limit it to men is we don't want to be, and we don't want anyone to accuse us of stalking women and children. That just wouldn't be right. So, because it's probably a woman who's the most interesting person in Ireland, followed by a child. I mean, I hate to break it to you, Eddie, but you're probably like, I don't know, number 273 or something, way down the list. I mean, shit, you wouldn't even get picked for, Division C soccer league, right? You'd be the guy sitting on the bench just drinking a beer. I hate to break it to you, but anyway, what's that?
The big fat belly.
The big exactly. So anyway, again, hate to break it to you, but that's why I'm saying let's call it The Most Interesting Man in Ireland, because I don't want anyone to be stalking women and children and saying, hey, no. The Most Interesting Man in Ireland. That the men in Ireland can handle it, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing: it's in search of, because what we're basically saying is we're saying, Ireland, wake the hell up. All right. You've got so many brilliant people, so many creative people, right? And I'm saying this is a proud Irish American, right? Wake, I would say it differently, but there's ladies in the room, right? I know, I've got a cat named Fudge. He's sleeping. Wake the fudge up, Ireland. You've got so much potential, so much art, so much history, so much beauty, so much integrity and unity, right? If you're Irish, you're Irish, right? And that means something. And so it's time for y'all to get together, right? Get together, right? And you can't get together in the pubs anymore. So get together on Zoom. Get together on Zoom and start launching really interesting programs. Oh shoot, my brother's calling. Let me pause. Recording. Okay, resuming recording after a break. So we're feeling really good. Excuse me, really good about the show, the program, the open house for the most interesting man in Ireland. Right? It's an obvious spin-off of the most interesting man in the world, right? And but we make the focus, hey, we're on a search, we're on a treasure hunt. Let's put it this way, let's put it in a very positive way. We're on a treasure hunt for the four-leaf clovers, being the groups of 4 people or more or less or whatever, but 4 plus or minus whatever. The four plus or minus whatever leaf clovers of Ireland. And we're here to find out what they're talking about. Ireland speaks. Ireland speaks.
What are the conversations exactly? Are they poignant in today's society? That's the main thing.
Yeah, and which of them are open to the outside world to join in? The answer is probably most of them are, right? No, we only want to talk with other Irish people because everyone else, no, come on. You're pretty darn open, very friendly, open people, right? That's a good thing. And everybody loves you. Everybody loves Ireland and the Irish, right? And so, I mean, it's just like, it just gives people goosebumps. And so I think that the most interesting man in Ireland can be a really great, fun program. And then because first and foremost, it gets you laughing, right?
And secondly, it gets you talking.
No, there is no second. Once it gets you laughing, you're sold. When somebody gets you laughing, you're sold. You're in, right?
The best way to get the woman to bed is laugh with her. Never hear the saying of laugh a woman in the bed.
So I'm making a list. We've got speech writing for Bill Gates, Elon's open house, and the most interesting man in Ireland. You know what? All 3 of these totally attract my attention, right?
I said that the most interesting man in Ireland should be a 2-hour segment off of the Irish, as part of the Irish breakfast, and Eddie will host it.
No, I love it. I totally agree. Yeah, Eddie, well, you can host it.
We can just do what we're doing.
And listen, whenever you guys go out on the streets, whenever that is, whenever lockdowns allows you to do it, you go and you say hello. We're here interviewing folks on behalf of folks who are willing. There's no, we don't do video bombing, or anything like that. Just whoever's willing, with your phone in your pocket, or whatever. Or not in your pocket, because you got to keep the show running. But maybe with, I don't know, James will be like, videoing a hummingbird or something, and then you go and talk to the people and say, we're interviewing folks for the program called The Most Interesting Man in Ireland. And you're going to get their attention. They may not like it. They may think it's stupid. They may say it's stupid, but you know what? You got their attention, and you probably got them laughing. Right. And then they say, what's this about? And you say, listen, what it's really about is a search for the 4-leaf clovers. The 4-leaf clovers, the shamrocks, and the leprechauns of Ireland, who are having conversations that they're willing to share with the world. Listen, you just know that a buttload of interesting conversations are happening all over Ireland, right? From Tipperary to Dingle Bay. But there, I got you again. Eddie, right?
Yeah.
I'm grand, thank you. Continue, please.
Anyway, so you just know that, buttloads of really great conversations are happening all over Ireland, right? But how many of them does anyone know about other than the guys sucking on the bottle of Irish whiskey, right? It's between the two of them and the bottle. Let's face it. Let's call a spade a spade. And they might have had the most brilliant conversation until 4 a.m. But by the time they woke up, it had all been pissed down the drain, right? Or their pants, depending on how far they made it, and how much they drank, right? But you know, it's gone. It's gone with the wind, right? Like an Irish lullaby, midsummer. It's gone with the wind. And so, you know, what do? Well, we got to capture that. We got to capture those dreams. We got to break out the dream catchers. You've seen the dream catchers from the original First Nations peoples of the Americas. We need to break out the dream catchers and zoom with the record button. That's your dream capture. We're dreaming awake right now, are we not? Of course we are. We're dreaming awake. I'm dreaming, like that great song from The Who, 1975, The Who by Numbers. I'm dreaming, da 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 da. I'm dreaming, na, na. I'm dreaming of the day when I can share the wealth. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We're dreaming of the day we can share it all, including with Mother Earth herself, who has given and has had taken from her quite enough. And we're saying enough. And this gets to the heart. And so by the time you get to that part of the conversation with the people in the park in Cork, right? By the time you get to that part of the conversation, oh my God, they're either teared up
Or assaulting us.
or assaulting you, right? But that's what you guys do half the time over there anyway, you fighting Irish. So that's like nothing for you. It's like that's how you say hello, right? You punch somebody in the face, right?
Hello.
That's how you say hello in Ireland.
A bit of exercise.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I think this is gonna be a real winner. The most interesting man in Ireland.
Yeah, not to start going out.
And you know, listen to what all three of these programs have in common. Is it coincidence? Speech writing for Bill Gates, Elon's open house, and the most interesting man in Ireland. They're all talking about a specific person. And the reality is we're kind of putting each of them on the hot seat a little bit, saying, hey, Bill, you need to give the right speech. You haven't given it yet. So, you know, sit down and listen, please. Hey, Elon, no more excuses, no more bullshit. We need you and your army of 10 million volunteers. Volunteers! Elon, break out the taxonomy and let them go where they go. And wherever there's a traffic jam, we open up more breakout rooms and new subtopics, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Listen, if there's too many engineers in the breakout room for thin film reflective materials for Operation Desert Canopy, all right, break it into everything can be broken down further, right? So what are the subcategories? Well, you've got the plastic substrate. You've got the metallized surface. You've got the civil engineering, you know, all the structures and everything like that, the soils, the shifting of the sands, the moving of the sand dunes. Are we going to build something and then it's going to collapse because of shifting sand dunes or wind erosion or sandstorms or whatever? I don't know. Freezing and thawing, whatever they do in deserts, right? I don't think you have too many deserts in Ireland last time I checked, so you may not know what I'm talking about. But anyway, there are these places called deserts in the world. Anyway, so, you know, you break it down. You break it down and say, okay, there were, you know, 217 of us here, and that's too many for one room. We just opened 10 breakout rooms. Go divide yourselves into those 10. Everyone choose where you want to go. So everyone self-selects, and they keep self-selecting until they've gotten to the single most interesting thing, the most interesting topic in Elon's taxonomy. That's the next one. The most interesting topic in Elon's taxonomy. That'll be a follow-on conversation. The most interesting topic in Elon's taxonomy. Doesn't that just draw you in?
Yeah.
What's that? Right?
Yeah.
You know? And I'll draw, and we'll draft up a taxonomy for Elon. Hey, if we're writing speeches for Bill Gates, we might as well write up taxonomies for Elon. Because I'm the tax man. Yeah, I'm the tax man. If you've got a problem, tax on me. If you've got an opportunity, tax on me. Because I'm the tax. Because we're the tax men. Boom, boom, boom. Whoa, we're the tax men. All right, the most interesting topic in Elon's taxonomy. Because here's what's going to happen. Elon's going to say, "Hey, man, there's a whole bunch of people talking about you on this new thing called on this thing called the press conference. They're doing a press conference about you, Elon."
Yeah.
Really? You know, and so he'll find out about it.
And they're looking for the most interesting man in Ireland to write your speech.
And the next one's going to be called, "Hey, Elon, are you listening yet?" I mean, that really rubs it in. But and in that one, we talk about, we talk about precisely this strategy, because now we've got three conversations with the name Elon in it, right? And I don't think they're talking about my nephew Elon. I'm just kidding. I don't have a nephew named Elon. But hey, Elon, are you listening now? Right? It's kind of like when Roger Moore did that documentary called, no, Michael Moore did that documentary called Roger and Me. Did you know about that one? You know about Michael Moore, right?
Yeah.
Okay, his first one, which was his least well known, but it got him on the map, was called Roger and Me. He was trying to have a meeting with Roger, McWhatever, CEO or chairman of General Motors. Why? They were moving all the jobs out of Michigan, and he wanted to talk to him about it and say, "Hey, please stop. Let's talk about this." Roger wouldn't talk with him. So he said, "You know what? I'm going to do a documentary called Roger and Me. And it's going to be all about my quest to finally meet with Roger McWhatever, chairman of General Motors."
Wow.
Okay. Roger and Me. So we're basically doing Elon and Me. Right? Yeah, I'm going to call it that. Elon and Me. Screw it. Instead of, "Hey, Elon, are you listening yet?" Let's change the name to Elon and Me. Elon and Me.
And then start about,
because then, you know what? Because what I'm basically doing is, metaphorically, I'm singing mariachis under the girl's window every night for 100 nights straight until she finally just can't hold back anymore and flings open the curtains, right, and jumps from the second story window into my arms and ends up breaking my back, right? Anyway, that's kind of like that's an Irish tragedy meets Mexican love story. But anyway, yeah, Elon and Me. Okay, so we're up to 5. Let's keep cranking it out. Let's keep cranking out the Irish vegan bangers.
vegan banger. As if.
The mash is already vegan, so I don't have to mess with that. Just don't put any butter on it. All right. There's a lot of good alternatives. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is super cool.
What about Elon? We've got a problem.
No, that's going too far. That's going too far. I think with the Elon trio, because good things like this come in threes. Elon's open house, because everyone's going to come to that because they're going to expect Elon to be there, right?
Yeah.
I'll say, hey, meet Elon. Right.
Must be exciting on a farm. That's brilliant.
Just keep telling them he'll be here in a minute.
No, but seriously, Elon's
Just
open house.
the
The most interesting topic in Elon's taxonomy and Elon and me. And, here's the cool thing. Now, there's so much cool about this. The more we talk, the more great conversations we think up. And it's a combination of Irish humor and American logic. Just kidding. Just kidding.
That sounds pretty accurate, to be fair.
Yeah.
Doesn't it, Don?
No, but my point is the logic is in the humor, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
The logic is, and it's so well encapsulated that it actually it touches your heart, and it gets you to react, right? And wow.
I wouldn't imagine a lot of people have the same sense of humor as we have. There's quite a few.
I fucking do this. And Cork.
No, and listen, I don't know, James, I think you were at the tail end of when Oscar joined us yesterday from Mexico, right?
Yeah.
This dude is brilliant. I mean, totally brilliant, just incredible. And, and the thing is, he's a friend of Jimena's.
Mm.
And Jimena found the right moment to say, Oscar, we need you here now. And he came right over. And Brett Warshawski was there, Vincent from Long Island, Wouter from the Netherlands, Kate, South Dakota. So we just had like the perfect mix.
Wow.
It was just this beautiful. Jimena was there, Oscar, and it was just like, just all these incredible, just wow. And we're all talking on this very high level, in high levels of technology and platforms and paradigms and all this kind of stuff. And it was just like super awesome. Right. So the point is there are hidden gems everywhere, but they're often eccentric and, sometimes a bit isolated. Right. And, and we're not looking for people with big egos here. If anything, to the contrary, because whether you got a big ego, a small one, or none at all egos get checked at the door. Right. When we come together in conversation. So, don't look for the Irish Nobel laureate who 10,000 people a day try to reach and, doesn't pick up the phone anymore because he's tired of everyone trying to talk to him. He wants to sleep. Okay. So forget about him and, go for the dude down the street who you had a pint with that one time and really was like onto something. And you're like, wow, have you written any of this up? No. I just think about it. Okay. Get that guy and say, hey, what was that thing you said that time? Blah, blah, blah. And then, and then say, look, would you like to share this with the world? Because I think the world needs to hear this. Oh, I'd love to, but it's impossible. No, it's not. Come to the next press conference. What are you doing on Thursday? Da 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 da.
Good.
And that may well be the most interesting man in Ireland.
Yeah.
Hence the quest. And so look, it's kind of like you're on this kind of this Irish Nobel Prize quest, right? In a sense, and then guess what? Listen to this. What do you say we talk to Wouter and say, hey, Wouter, let's do a program called The Most Interesting Man in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
right?
Get all these interesting men together.
Get all these interesting men together from all these different countries. The most interesting man in Mexico, I think it's Oscar. Really, this dude, this dude is just off the freaking charts, right? And the conversation went super well, and it went like this. It was mostly like Oscar and I were kind of like sparring, kind of like in the Matrix with the wooden sticks and the kung fu and all that. So we were kind of sparring back and forth, and I was saying, listen, the next step is the press conference, November 19th, right? Excuse me. Well, my Darth Vader came out there. It's on the 19th, and that's what we got to focus on. Eddie, have you seen my pictures of me as Darth Vader?
No.
Oh, you don't know what you're missing. Here, let me pause recording.